Today I messed up when I invited a homeless person to a house party. Last night, I, 24 male, convinced a random homeless man to come with me to a house party. I was very high when I made this decision. The house party was also a costume party. I had an extra costume, but not an extra person, so stoned me was like, why not go out and find an extra person? The homeless man in my street was at the top of my list of potential candidates. I approached him and asked if he was keen to go to a house party dressed as a stormtrooper. He asked if there would be food. I said yes, and alcohol. Homeless man was in. We showed up at the house party together. I was dressed as Jesus. White robe, crown of thorns, hippie hair, the conventional version. The homeless man was dressed from head to toe as an average stormtrooper. I encouraged him to avoid removing his helmet and drawing too much attention. A suggestion, not an instruction. I didn't keep an eye on the homeless man for the entire night. He did his thing, I did mine. From time to time, I caught him low-key lifting his helmet above his mouth to eat or drink when he thought no one was watching. Seeing that convinced me that I did the right thing. The homeless man was having a good time, and my stormtrooper costume did not go to waste. A win-win. Like I said, I was high. If you're reading this, something obviously went wrong. I found out when it was too late that another person at the party was also wearing a stormtrooper costume. The stormtrooper was at the party with his girlfriend, who at some point confused the two stormtroopers and ended up grind dancing with the homeless stormtrooper. The boyfriend stormtrooper noticed his girlfriend enthusiastically rubbing her butt on another person's crotch and wasted zero time introducing his fist to that recipe. I was not there to witness what happened in person, and even if I was, I doubt I would have been sober enough to realize what was going on. I heard more than one version of the story. Some say the stormtroopers fought each other until the unknown stormtrooper lost the fight and ran away. Others say the unknown stormtrooper won the fight and then ran away. That being said, everyone agreed that one of the stormtroopers did indeed run away. No one knows that it was my stormtrooper who ran away with my costume. I really liked that costume. Now I might never see it again. In the comments, The Real Napoleon says, "So if I get this straight, you gave a hobo a great night with raunchy dancing, free food and alcohol, and new clothes. Homie is ready to fight for the Empire." My thoughts exactly. Now OP has a great story, and Street Guy had a great night, hopefully. Plus, if the stormtrooper in OP's costume won the fight, OP now has a bodyguard for life with a stormtrooper costume that sleeps outside his house. Boyfriend stormtrooper sounds like an insecure loser for choosing to throw a punch over what was obviously a simple misunderstanding. Seriously, like it's so obvious how it could happen. Hope he didn't take it out on the girlfriend too. Right? Like the boyfriend would have to be insane not to immediately be able to see the misunderstanding that could occur with two people wearing the same suit and no one knows who is who. Honestly, I've definitely run into people like this in my life before, and I think they are just looking for an excuse, any excuse to fight. I myself will avoid people like that, like the plague. I'll keep myself as far away as possible when I recognize what type of person that is, because nothing good can ever come from any kind of relationship, any kind of proximity to someone like that. They are looking to give themselves permission to immediately enact violence upon anyone. And it's sad that, Stormtrooper Homeless Man bore the brunt of this guy's violence and brutality, and I really hope that Homeless Man was the one that beat the shit out of him for it, because that guy definitely deserves it for something that was honestly just a simple misunderstanding. And now, onto the updates. So a couple of years ago, I invited a homeless man to a house party. No idea why I did what I did, but since I had a decent amount of drugs in the system, I was like, the drugs made me do it. Because it was a house party where people were encouraged to wear costumes, I convinced the homeless man to wear my stormtrooper costume so that no one could see his face. I dressed up as Jesus. Fast forward to the homeless stormtrooper bumping and grinding with a random girl at the house party. The girl was under the impression that she was grinding on her boyfriend, who happened to be dressed up as a stormtrooper too. Chaos erupted when the boyfriend appeared and apparently became physical with the homeless stormtrooper. I didn't see what happened, but based on eyewitness testimonies, the homeless stormtrooper fled the scene. I never thought that I would see the homeless man or my stormtrooper costume again, but I did, yesterday, years later. I was walking in the park, as one does, with a girl. We were on our second date. Things were going well until a fucking clone of Tom Hanks in Castaway appears out of nowhere and surprised us. I didn't know who the guy was or what he wanted until he pointed at himself and repeatedly said, "Star Wars! Star Wars!" Enough times for me to finally be like, no fucking way. It's the homeless stormtrooper. As soon as the homeless stormtrooper noticed my confusion turn into realization, he unexpectedly closed the gap between us and gave me a bro hug like we were buddies. It was awkward, but I allowed it because I kind of felt guilty for how things turned out the last time he saw me. I introduced my date to the homeless stormtrooper and explained to her how we knew each other. The homeless stormtrooper encouraged us to follow him to his tent so that we could see that he still had the stormtrooper costume. I pointed out the time and explained to the homeless stormtrooper that we were on our way to see the new Fantastic Four movie and we didn't want to be late. My date responded and said we still had loads of time before the movie begins, which prompted the homeless stormtrooper to lead us to his tent. The homeless stormtrooper entered his tent alone and came out like 3 minutes later wearing the stormtrooper costume. My date was really impressed. I did my best to match her energy, but all I could think about was not missing that movie. The homeless stormtrooper disappeared into the tent again before reappearing with a skateboard and doing tricks for us. My date, who seemed to have forgotten that we were supposed to be bonding and shit, took her phone out and proceeded to film the homeless stormtrooper for her TikTok or whatever. Meanwhile, another person emerged from the tent. I kid you not, this person literally looked identical to the homeless stormtrooper. I didn't ask, but I figured they were twins. The homeless twin approached me and offered to sell me condoms. The guy lifted his shirt and revealed a fucking belt made of condoms strapped to his waist. I said no thank you, but he refused to take no for an answer, saying that he could tell what size condom I used by shaking my hand, which made no effing sense to me. My date overheard this shit and encouraged me to shake hands with the homeless twin. To please my date, I played along and I shook the dude's hand. Needless to say, it was no ordinary handshake. The homeless twin didn't let go of my hand for at least 30 seconds before pointing at one of the condoms on his belt and saying, "Regular." What? My date asked me if that was accurate. I was like, what are the odds of me being average like most people on Earth? My sarcasm didn't land, and I ended up paying the homeless twin for his overpriced and expired condoms just to make him leave me alone. I was just about to inform my date that it was time for us to go, but then the homeless stormtrooper fell off his skateboard. After helping him get back on his feet and making sure he was 100% okay, I gave him some money and said goodbye. We were late for the movie, which I already paid for, so I had to book another time slot and pay again for both me and my date. In other words, I paid twice the price, twice, for an IMAX show in 3D, which is not cheap. On top of that, I had to pay a condom whisperer for prehistoric condoms and a skateboarding cosplayer for existing, I guess. Weirdest and most expensive second date of my life so far. In the comments, Leo La Dog says, "I got to where you said she seemed to forget you were supposed to be bonding. My dude, that was what was happening way more than a movie could offer." OP says, "My date had the same reaction, which I appreciate. I guess I'm still processing the fact that all the positives about this experience was sponsored by the homeless twins. I think I might actually visit them again and show my gratitude. I'll bring condoms that are not expired." Angel Irene says, "At no point ever could I predict what was coming next." At this point, I was expecting her to marry the stormtrooper at a Star Wars-themed wedding. My friend actually did organize one years back, with him as the best man. I at least want to find out what happened for there not to be a third date, cause I would totally date that man. Who knows? That was one of the more wild stories I've read in a while, and I think it is a damn tragedy that OP didn't come back and confirm whether there was a third date or not. That was a roller coaster from start to finish, an expensive one nonetheless, which is, I guess, par for the course, as far as roller coasters go. But damn, imagine that as one of the inciting incidents of your relationship. That is a banger of a story to share with people. It's sad that OP didn't realize how fun it was in the moment, but I can see from their shoes how stressful and chaotic that would be. Thanks for the story and thanks for the update, OP. Our next post is by user AnxiousFem12, and it's titled, "My husband's childhood best friend asked me for a favor and then humiliated me in front of her family. I'm done being the bigger person." I've been sitting on this for a few days, trying to decide if I'm just being dramatic or if I've been letting too much slide for too long. So I, 30 female, have been happily married for a few years now. My husband, 31 male, is honestly a gem. Kind, patient, hilarious, loyal. Basically everything you'd want, which after having an ex cheat on me with his best friend is kind of a big deal. That relationship wrecked me for a while, but I worked hard not to drag the wreckage into something new, and thankfully, my husband has never given me a single reason to question him, until now? Maybe? I don't know. My husband and I have a great relationship, and we're pretty social and often hang out with each other's friends. I get along with almost all of his group, and they've honestly made me feel welcome, except for her. His childhood best friend. Let's call her Claire. Claire has always been cold to me. Not outright rude, just subtle enough to make me feel crazy for noticing. You know that kind of vibe? Every time we've been in the same room, she's managed to talk around me, not to me. I tried. I really did. I've smiled, made conversation, been nothing but warm, even when she's given me nothing to work with. She doesn't show up to group hangouts, but she'll invite him over, and he always tells me, to his credit. He never goes without mentioning it, and he's never weird or secretive about her, but it still rubs me the wrong way. I've tried being friendly, I've tried small talk. Hell, I invited her to our birthdays, barbecues, engagement dinner, and she bailed on all of them. She skipped our wedding too, and she only ever seems to reach out to him, usually when she's just been dumped and needs to talk. When I've brought it up, my husband says I'm overthinking it, that Claire's just a little odd socially, and maybe she is. Then a few weeks ago, out of nowhere, she messaged me. She asked if I would model for her project. Totally unexpected. And I was caught off guard enough to say yes. Part of me thought maybe this is her trying to connect. Maybe this was her olive branch. I even felt a little hopeful. God, I was naive. So I agreed. My husband offered to come with me since he hadn't seen her in a while and thought it'd be fun to catch up after. When we got there, her family was also involved. And from the second I walked in, it was like stepping into some passive-aggressive Twilight Zone. Her mum and sister kept calling my husband our son-in-law. I laugh, awkwardly. Think I must have misheard. It only got worse. During the shoot came more of the snarky comments, jokes about the one that got away, and some bonds never fade. Her mum at one point literally said, "We always thought Claire would end up with him, but life has its detours, I guess. Claire always imagined walking down the aisle with him, and then, it's sweet of her to fill in though." Oh, come on. I wish I was exaggerating, and Claire just kept snapping pictures, smiling, saying nothing. No, hey, cut it out. No awkward laugh, no redirect, nothing. My husband? Clearly uncomfortable. I watched him fidget through the whole thing, clear his throat a few times. He tried to change the subject or came nearby me during the shooting. He didn't say much either, just went kind of quiet. I stuck it out for an hour, let her take her photos, smiled, posed, whatever. But the whole time, I felt like I was part of a social experiment, and everyone else was in on the joke but me. When we got in the car, he was silent for a while, and then finally said, "Sorry about that all. That was weird, right?" And honestly, I didn't even know what to say. Because yeah, it was weird. It was borderline disrespectful, and the fact that he was there, saw all of it, clearly felt it too, and still didn't step in or pull the plug? It makes me feel kind of alone in this. I'm just tired. Tired of pretending this woman is harmless or just awkward. She knows exactly what she's doing. I don't want to start a huge fight, but I'm at the point where I don't want her in our lives. Not as a friend, not as a ghost in the corner of our marriage. No more bending over backwards to be the cool wife. I'm not interested in earning points with someone who clearly doesn't want me around. Anyway, thanks for letting me scream into the void for a minute. I really needed to get this out. Edit. Sorry guys, English isn't even my first or second language. Sometimes it's harder to get my points and feelings across. Just to clarify a few things people were asking about, Claire is actually a photography major, and this shoot was a part of her final project. I'm not a professional model or anything, but I've done some hobby modeling here and there, so when she asked if I'd help out, I thought it was a casual favor. Why at her house? Well, she comes from a wealthy family and has a fully set up photo studio in their house, which is why the shoot happened there instead of at a regular studio. I honestly thought it'd just be her and the camera, not a full audience with drinks and commentary. Additional background, I grew up in a pretty emotionally abusive household, so I think I've gotten too used to passive-aggressive comments and just sort of freeze up. Maybe that's why I didn't react in the moment. But yeah, it definitely hit harder after the fact. I will update you as soon as possible. Thank you for all your comments. In the comments, No Strawberry says, borderline disrespectful? I'd hate to see what you think is actually disrespectful. OP says, wow, reading your comment and honestly so many others has really helped me see just how not okay that whole situation was. I think that I was so used to brushing off this kind of behavior that I didn't even realize how deeply disrespected I was. I grew up in an emotionally abusive household where snide comments and passive aggression were just part of the background noise. So when someone pulls that kind of crap now, I think a part of me automatically minimizes it like, oh, I've heard worse. But reading all of your reactions kinda snapped me out of that. And yeah, it hurts that my husband didn't shut it down. I've been trying to rationalize it in my head, like maybe he didn't want to escalate things because it felt like a trap, or that he's not used to being in these situations. None of that excuses it though. Not even a little. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. Really talk. Not brush it off, not laugh it away, just lay it all out. Because at this point, I need to know where he stands. Thanks for the reality check. I needed it more than I realized. I know I've read this one before, but there's a new update, so I'm going to read the new update, as well as the update that I originally read. I still stand by the fact that the husband was a coward in this situation and should have said something. I don't think it's on OP in this situation to make a scene and scream at those two that are openly talking shit to OP's face. OP's husband knows everyone else in that room much more than OP does, and yet he just let it happen. There was no pushback whatsoever. There was no reassurance to her in the moment. He just went along with it, and I think that was completely disgusting. I'd have many choice words for the husband, and I would be like, it's me or your childhood best friend. You cut her out of your life right now, block all contact, and we never talk to her again, or we're done. I would seriously issue an ultimatum like that. That is an incredibly messed up thing to put your wife through. And now, onto the update. A quick recap for those who missed the original. My husband's childhood best friend, Claire, has never liked me. She skipped all invitations, avoids me in person, and still found little ways to insert her into his life. The final straw? She asked me to model for her final photography project. I showed up thinking maybe it was a fresh start, but nope. Instead, I got publicly mocked by her family, who joked out loud that she should have been the one marrying my husband. First off, holy crap, I did not expect that post to blow up like it did. Thank you everyone who commented, messaged, or just made me feel like I wasn't losing my mind. So many of you guys asked for an update, and here it is. For those wondering, no, they never dated. He had a high school crush on her over a decade ago. But that's ancient history. No, I don't think he's ever cheated, emotionally or physically. He's always very open and honest. We have each other's passwords. They barely see each other anymore in person, maybe once every few months. We live about 2 hours away. Okay, so here's the update. Funny enough, I didn't even get the chance to sit down and talk to my husband before something else happened. I just can't believe my life at the moment. Anyway, I was still trying to process what happened and sort through my anger towards Claire, and honestly, toward my husband too. That's when I got a message from my sister-in-law. We'll call her Madeline. I'm really close with Madeline. She's also a part of the wider social circle that Claire floats around in. They're friendly, but not close. She sent me a screen recording from Claire's close friend story with a simple WTF. It was a clip of me posing during the shoot, no music. But in the background, you can clearly hear Claire's sister say, "Claire should have been the one to marry him." I lost it. I waited until my husband got home from work, sat him down, and showed him the video. He watched it once, then again. His whole face changed. He finally looked pissed. I couldn't help but think, why didn't he have the same reaction there? So I laid it all out. I told him everything. Every snide comment, every time Claire made me feel small, how I'd always tried to be civil, how I never asked him to choose between us, but I was done being polite while someone consistently disrespected me. I told him, if this doesn't bother you enough to act, we've got a bigger problem. I'm not going to be in a marriage where I have to beg to be defended. I need a partner who stands up for me, and if that's not you, then I need to rethink this. He didn't argue, didn't get defensive, and I know he feels sorry. Then I showed him the Reddit post. He tried to read every comment. Some of them made him tear up. When he finished, he looked at me and said that he feels like the worst husband. He let this happen right in front of him. He is so sorry, and asked me, "What do you need from me now?" I told him straight up, this isn't just about her anymore. It's about whether or not you're willing to protect this marriage. But I'm not gonna feel like I'm second place in my own relationship, so it's either me or her. So we called Claire. She picked up all cheerful, acting like nothing had happened. We brought up the video. She immediately got defensive and was like, "Oh, come on. It was just a joke. Are you really mad over that? Seriously?" And that's when he stepped in. This isn't just about the video. It's the constant disrespect towards my wife. I didn't say anything before because I didn't want to lose your friendship, and I convinced myself you didn't mean it. But what happened at that shoot? That was disgusting. My wife came to support you, and you and your family treated her like a joke. I didn't speak up then, and I'm ashamed of that, but that ends now. I don't even know why I held on to this friendship for so long. If you can't respect my wife, then you don't respect me. She laughed, literally laughed, and said, "Wow, you're really cutting me off over that girl?" Oh my God. I was ready to fight. But my husband calmed me down, said to Claire, if choosing between you and my wife ever felt like a hard decision, I wouldn't deserve her. We're not kids anymore. You need to grow up. I simply don't want to be your friend anymore. I have nothing else to say. I'm telling you guys, he can be a gem sometimes. But yeah, we blocked her and her entire family, and since then, he's been checking in with me. Not trying to fix things, just showing up, listening, understanding. He finally sees what I've been dealing with. We've still got some healing to do, but now I know where he stands, and that changes everything for me. And now, onto the final update. Hi again. I wasn't going to post a third time, but a bunch of people kept asking for an update, so I figured I'd just close this out. Also, oh my God, I honestly didn't expect my original post to get that much attention. I wrote it when I was angry and exhausted and needed to vent. I thought maybe like 5 people would see it, and I'd feel slightly less crazy. Instead, it kind of exploded. My husband actually read the second post too. Yeah. After seeing it all written out and reading the comments, which surprised him that people were still curious, but maybe that was a good thing. Anyway, the update itself isn't dramatic. After that last call, we blocked Claire and her whole family, and that was it. No follow-up, no weird texts, no fake apology, nothing. Just silence. And honestly, the silence was kinda the best thing she ever gave me. My husband's been great. Not doing too much or trying to overcompensate, just steady. He finally sees how much I was putting up with. He's been more protective in a real way, not just in words. He owns how passive he was before. It doesn't feel like we've been trying to move on, it feels like we're on the same page now. I think the biggest shift is internal. I'm not second-guessing myself as much. I'm not trying to win people over who have already decided not to see me. I feel a lot more grounded, and it's because I finally spoke up instead of brushing things off. So yeah, not much drama, but a lot of clarity. Thanks to everyone who commented or messaged, or just listened. I'm probably gonna delete this account soon, but this thread honestly helped me more than I can explain. For anyone else dealing with subtle disrespect that makes you question your own gut, you are definitely not imagining it. You are not being dramatic. You don't have to keep being the bigger person just to stay nice. Anyway, that's it. Thanks again. In the comments, Sir Wong says, "The no dramatic update is the best kind of update. I am so happy for OP. Seriously, I was expecting the usual, then she had a batshit crazy meltdown, tried to steal our baby and got arrested, but somehow the whole family demanded I forgive her and give her the baby, so I got divorced a week later, and now I'm living my best life in another country and my ex lost everything. Kinda shit these stories seem to love. This is the right closure." I was expecting my husband has secretly been texting her behind my back, as a minimum, because that's how these always go. I'm so happy to be wrong. Quote, and asked me, "What do you need from me now?" Better than steamrolling around playing White Knight slaying all the dragons. Basically saying, you were the one who was hurt and wronged. What resolution would help make things right for you? It's so interesting how movies have damaged me, because I was expecting OP to be upset with her husband for not automatically knowing what she wanted him to do and get angry for him asking. Apart from the initial mistake of being too tolerant of Claire's bullshit, the husband did everything right. He listened, apologized, gave OP space for her feelings, changed what he could without thinking he could fix everything. What he did is basically what you should want and expect from a partner who makes a big mistake. Yeah, I agree with that. I think movies have done quite a bit of damage on people's perceptions of situations like that, in that nobody is perfect and no one's going to know exactly what to do in the moment and understand and comprehend what exactly is going on. OP's partner is imperfect. He made mistakes. He allowed abuse to happen, and he didn't do anything about it in the moment, but he did show up for OP. He didn't make excuses. He didn't try and gaslight her, manipulate her, try to tell her that she wasn't valid to her feelings. He just asked, "What can I do? How would you like us to approach this situation together? How can I fix this?" And they worked together, and they got the job done. Bob the Builder would be proud. Thank you for the story, OP, and thank you for the second update that you brought to the community. That was a great way to wrap up this quite nightmarish situation that it started off as. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.